30 years ago, this couple provided a refuge for me before I started Bible school at Capernwray Hall in England, in Lancashire. And it is a joy to have them here. And that's one of the stories we're going to tell. Ken and Eva Needham, welcome. I am sure we have people watching who are already saying, hey, it's good to see them again, because you've been at Muskoka Baptist Conference speaking, at Fairhaven's Bible Conference, out in BC. Where were you in BC?
Barnabas Family Ministries.
Okay, it's a new one for me. And yesterday at the People's Church in Toronto, subbing in for Charles Price, another Capernwray man. So this is, just a treat. And we're going to give our viewers a little treat. I'm going to call this a mini vacation, because we're going to go to your home, where you're headed today, in the mountains of Mourne. Where in Ireland is that, Eva?
On the east coast. It's about halfway between Belfast and Dublin.
And for how many years? I mean, let me just say, 30 years ago, wherever this guy went to speak, he invited anyone who wanted to come to your house. And of course, I took advantage of that. But you've made hospitality even more intentional and more spiritual. Tell us what you do.
We open our home so that people can come and spend time in quiet, out of the rush and hustle of this busy world.
And it's actually, and I didn't even realize this, it's part of a movement, global.
The Quiet Garden movement, yes. It was the vision of a pastor in England who wanted to provide space for people to come aside and spend time on their own with the Lord. And he started as the Quiet Garden Trust in England, and other people caught the vision, and now there are around 300 quiet gardens worldwide.
300? How long can you stay?
It varies from a few hours to several days.
And you do the cooking?
Well, sometimes.
It's kind of B&B, bed and breakfast.
It can be, yes.
And do you provide spiritual guidance, or do people just quietly seek the Lord on their own?
We provide a certain amount of structure to the day if people want it, but our encouragement is for people to spend time on their own in quiet with the Lord.
Oh, and I'll bet the scenery, like Capernwray Bible schools, are all in beautiful locations.
Oh, yes.
How many Capernwray schools in the world today?
27.
27. So part of the appeal is just God's creation.
Well, that is so, and yet some of the quiet gardens are in churches or in schools or in inner city areas where people have created a quiet space so that there's somewhere where people can come and be quiet, be still.
Harder and harder to find in the
Your
world.
garden would be great.
Thank you. I have found it so. You know, just rock and a little bit of paint and calm, and yeah, it was good. Let me take you to Ireland, and we'll have Ken and Eva tell us what we're seeing at their home.
This is our home. It's a little cottage in Ireland. We're looking out at the mountain at one side of the house and the sea on the other side.
And you love gardening, Eva. I know that.
From the garden.
This is you with your, the back of the house view?
That's
Yes.
Eva gardening.
Now, what is the body of water in the background?
That's the Irish Sea. And this is Ken's pond where he keeps his goldfish.
Now, just hold it. Is that a real heron, or is that?
That's a deterrent, which is not effective.
Okay, see at 11 o'clock there? It's not effective against what? What's landing?
Herons.
Oh, you don't want the herons to come.
Well, they eat the goldfish.
Oh, I can see the problem.
And when the goldfish are eaten, then the snails reproduce, and they eat the water lilies, and then there's nothing.
Oh, it's all wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I'd take any part
all
of that.
part of our fallen world.
Now, Ken, the reality is, although you're both part of this ministry, you're in 70 countries around the world. You know how long it's taken us to get you here?
No, I don't.
Challenging. I want to thank Paul Williamson for his ongoing efforts. You've been a Bible teacher globally for how many years?
Oh, since 68. So, yeah, 43 years.
Torchbearers initially, and now Transmission is the name of your ministry.
Yeah.
Profound teaching. I heard about the Good Samaritan yesterday, like I've never heard.
Okay.
Typical.
Well,
And what's surprising about all of this is that from 7 to 17, you were an atheist.
yes.
What caused you to commit to that at 7? And how did you change your mind at 17?
Okay, well, I was dragged to church by my parents, who were themselves not Christians, and it was a very famous building. It was 11th century. But everything in it seemed to be like that, and it didn't seem to be at all relevant to today.
Stayed
And
old?
Certainly not to me. And it was just a piece of theatre, and it was fake, and as a child I could see that it was fake. And so I really didn't want to be there. I was the only kid in there. All my buddies were out playing football, and I wanted to be out there as well. And I had a conversation with my dad when I was 7, and I said, "Dad, there isn't really a God, is there? It's like Father Christmas. It's a nice story if you want to believe it, but it's not really any foundation." And he said, "Oh, no, God is real." And I said, "Well, how do you know?" And he didn't have, any real answer. And I decided, well, okay, if God isn't real, then let's end this.
It's very deductive for a 7-year-old.
Well, motivation is a lot of it.
You didn't want to be in that church.
No, I really didn't want to be there. Loathed it, which is one of the reasons why I really love to see kids enjoying themselves in a Christian context, whether it's a camp or whether it's a church. Feeling that they are really connecting with their Creator. It's such a great adventure, and just enjoying being there. Somebody once asked me this deep theological question: what is the unforgivable sin? And I said, it's to make somebody as exciting as Jesus appear boring to a child.
So how did he woo you at 17? By this time, you had a scholarship to pursue a path in science at university. You were going to be a chemist.
Yeah, well, I thought religion did not have the answers that people needed, and I thought science did. That's why we're all blowing each other up now, because we've got these answers of how to do this. But then we were on holiday as a family on the west coast of England. Beautiful sunset. And my sister, who was 7 years older than I, said, "Oh, well, look at the sun going down. Isn't it beautiful?" And I said, "Don't be stupid. The sun doesn't go down." And of course it doesn't. It's the earth that's turning. When I got back into my hotel room, I was thinking about that. So the earth turns away from the sun, and then it's cold, and then it's dark, and you can't see the sun. So how do you know it's there? And then I had this really daft idea that this is what I'd done with God. Intellectually, I'd turned my back on him, and I was saying there's no evidence, he's not there, not real, and my thinking was all negative. It wasn't honest, it wasn't scientific, it was just negative and prejudiced. And I see a lot of people like that now, all thinking the way I used to think. But if you actually would turn around and seek him, you would find him. And I did.